So today I would love to talk about empowerment and disempowerment, right? If we look at life and its collective and there's a polarity there, we are looking to be more empowered or more disempowered, whatever way that looks like, right? I'm not interested in people who are aware, but just if we were to look at everyone on the grand scheme of things, people who alcohol abuse, they're homeless, and a lot of self-sabotage around that. The beliefs are extremely limited. A lot of these mental complexities to try and prove something. Maybe that's workaholicism, alcoholism, whatever that looks like, all the way up to people who are living a successful life, who are at peace. Maybe you're a monk, whatever that looks like, right? If we really just look at it from a scale of things, someone is either empowered or they're disempowered. And the functionalities of that, if we're to really break it down, like how can someone live such a life, or how can someone live a very disempowering life? We have the nervous system, our beliefs, thoughts, feelings, actions. That's it. Without those, there's absolutely nothing. So looking at the functionalities of life, we can see where someone is in their life based on how empowered they are. And then how empowered that they are, we can say that that is the frequency that they operate on, and their unique frequency is attracting them a life based on where they act, based on their evolution and where they're going. Whether that's good or bad, labels is something that I'm not naturally resonated with. I'm not resonating with it, as it's simply the human experience for what it is, where people are truly at, and my words allow me to reach people regardless of where they are. Maybe. Anyway, so if we really break it down, we're gathering perspectives of life. And so when we take action, we're going to receive some sort of feedback, whether we're conscious of it or not, whether that's our thoughts, feelings, actions, and then we'll change. We're going to show up differently. And then that's the entire process. We wake up, we receive feedback, and there's going to be a different result after that. So as I like to say, we are accumulating experiences, and within those experiences, they're going to empower us or disempower us. And again, when we look at it from a zoomed out perspective, right now I am interested in linear time. I believe everything has its a space there. Everything has its own divine purpose. Something might look bad when we look at it from a very zoomed in point of view, but when we really look out, we can understand why we have attracted such a circumstance that allowed us the lessons for us to take away from that, so that we could grow and evolve into a new iteration of self. Okay, so the changing how we show up, it's everything. By going through an experience, we have learned something from it and applied that experience to our next. Again, whether conscious or unconscious, doesn't really matter. So we can say that what occurs in the next moment of our lives, it's going to be an accumulation of everything that we have experienced right before that very moment. Okay, so as I'm talking to you right now, what got me to here was based on everything before that, everything that's preceded. So if I wanted to live my best life, I would want to choose the most empowering beliefs, thoughts, feelings, actions. And there's going to be setbacks, but that's simply part of the human experience, to experience all of it. And again, looking at it from a zoomed in perspective on the linear timeline, the setbacks are here to teach us what we can take away and what we can apply next into our other circumstance. So if there's a setback that I was rejected by a woman, let's say, and there's a part of me that felt like I wasn't good enough, well, she has just gave me, and we can say like that is a setback, the rejection. But my point of view is she's given me the opportunity to reflect back on myself. Where do I feel like I'm not enough? And then we can get into the nitty gritty. We can do some self-inquiry. We can look at where that belief was rooted from, any sort of memory or evidence that the ego can hold on to, which is always going to go back to childhood. Any sort of belief that we have carried outside of childhood, they are the shadows as well as the light that is constantly in flux of attracting life to this very frequency. So when we can shift that, then everything changes along outside of that. So when we live in a world and we have taken a more empowered step in comparison to the last step that we took, that is evolution itself. That's how we grow, that's how we learn. And that is empowerment, right? Unfortunately, most of us are doing this unconsciously, or for people who are interested in growing, it might only be at the action or the thought level. And so then there's always a sense of trying. Then there's a bit of a friction there, because if we have a core belief that we're not good enough in some way, then every sort of overcompensation can try and be enough or be wanted, be loved. People who run marathons focus so much on achievement, productivity, getting all the degrees. That's not inherently bad, but it's the energy of what am I coming up against that? Is this from a space of pure curiosity and joy, or is there an underlying conversation there as to why I have been attracted to this? And I can say, like 100% of the time, if there's been no work done, then there's going to be a degree of you that is attracted to such a circumstance that is reinforcing the very belief that you are XYZ, okay? So it makes sense then to self-inquire, to look at ourselves and realize where within us are we living disempoweredly, and simply shifting that into a more empowered version for ourselves. So, this is a bit of a mistake. For me, the identity beliefs are the most powerful. They're the core of our own functioning. And so if we were to shift this, then action as a byproduct is going to change, as well as thoughts, feelings, and so the rest. So I've created an image here. If we really look at it, we can say identity beliefs, and then after that will be the nervous system. Again, they can coincide. It's not something that I am, it doesn't click with me as to what is below or above on this sequence, but I would put them near side by side. Again, the identity beliefs can be the gateway towards allowing the nervous system to chill the fuck out. But if we don't feel safe within our nervous system, then we can't even access the subconscious beliefs in the first place. So again, they coincide. It depends on how strong something feels for us and what needs to be looked at first, which is, again, very simultaneous. And after that, we got beliefs, we have thought, feeling, action, and then after action, it's what reality is showing back to us. So I'm not interested in circumstance as such or being more positive thinking. Yes, this does have its part to play, but for true transformation, a lot of the times it goes down to the identity belief. This is what's really running the show. This is what allows us to function in reality and allow us to attract in its most core form. So if there is an identity belief that I am not wanted, then there's going to be a feeling of inadequacy or anxiety, let's say, if I was around a romantic partner or a potential romantic partner, or if I was around a group of friends that I've only really met in a pub or on a football pitch, for example, then there might be some sort of need to show up, some sort of validation. So my thought will be, whether I'm conscious of it or not, but it's to impress these people. So the action that I might take might just feel a bit inauthentic. But again, it's not something that I'd be necessarily aware of. So when we can get down to the identity belief and dissolve that, realize that it's not a truth, then everything that has been built upon that as a structure, belief, feeling, thought, action, they're going to start crumbling too. And what I mean by identity belief, again, is that I am bad, I am not loved, I am not wanted, I don't matter. And then a belief, it's a bit more surface level. That I'm not saying it's surface level whatsoever, but the belief in retrospect to the identity belief It's getting right down to the core. So when we dissolve the identity belief, the paradigm that we thought that we have been living in, then action, thought, feeling will change as a byproduct of that. It's going to be natural. And that for me is the most empowered way that we can live life. So I'll give you an example. We are not what life presents to us. We are the perspective we have of what life presents to us, what it has shown to us, okay? And this is very empowered. So 2 examples. My mother made me angry. We hear this so many times. So, you made me feel X, Y, Z, or you made me do this. It's very disempowered. It's quite cringe almost when we realize, oh shit, like I have full control over this person's emotions, thoughts, feelings, actions. But like, I don't actually, but they think that because it's external. There's too much fear there around owning our own emotions, how we function in this world. And for an ego that has been very hurt and might be scared, there's going to be a lot of projection. There's going to be a lot of you did this, not much responsibility. So a very empowered way that I come to see of it is my mother made an action and I perceived it in a way that made me hurt, scared, sad, the rest of it. And the action that I take, well, she didn't make me do the action. I felt a certain way about how I perceived it, and then that was an action that followed. So there's a distinction between these two. It goes down to responsibility. The second example is taking full ownership of how we act, think, feel, whereas the other one is just pure victimhood. So I say that for any ounce of responsibility that we do not own, we're in victimhood. And if we are in a victim mentality, well, we're just disempowered. We can't do absolutely anything. You can't change something if you don't own it. And this is reality that we live in. We, like at the fundamental level, yeah, look, we're responsible for everything, for absolutely everything. Anything that we aren't, it's the ego trying to protect itself, always. And there's going to be times where we're going to go through some very hardship circumstances, or there's going to be some triggers in our life, and we're just bamboozled, just absolutely scared, and our ego tries to protect ourselves. And so there might be some judgment, or there's going to be some internal conversation about what's going on, or we're going to take actions that are quite irrational. They're not aligned to who we truly are. But again, that's the game of life. Like, this is going to happen. We're here for experience. We're not here to figure it all out and be free just like that. Like, it's a constant evolution. And so there's going to be circumstances where, whilst we know this intellectually, that embodiment, it's going to take a lot of time. And even by then, for me, it's not like, okay, I take full responsibility. Okay, I don't take full responsibility, but it's that intention of developing and growing more into it. It's like a polarity, right? You can't be at the very end of one spectrum in this human experience. I feel we can get very close. Like, we might think it like 99.9999%, but it's almost like a lottery. Like, when there's a trigger there, it's going to be 1 in 10 times. And then when I can start to work with it and it's dissolved, then it's going to be 1 in a million times, for example. So taking responsibility, it's still on that line. And that for me allows me to feel a lot of empathy, forgiveness and compassion for who I am and where I am on my path. It's having that deeper sense that it's okay. Like, it doesn't matter. We're fully safe. But maybe in that moment when I get really triggered by my dad, or I don't know, if the job is doing X, Y, Z to me, the ego is going to get afraid by that, okay? So it's when we can settle down, we can ground ourselves and say, no, like that was only trying to show me something about me. Maybe like a fear of abandonment, or that they're not going to like me, whatever version that looks like. So realizing that we are in fact in control of absolutely everything, we're instantly more empowered. It's completely life-changing, and it's a practice too. But when we can start to see where in our lives have we been living in a victim mentality, and most of us do to some degree, or all of us, we could say, then what we then invite ourselves into it's to be more open, humble, and honest with ourselves. Like, where in my life do I feel I'm suffering, or what's something that I am externally projecting? And that might not be on a person as such, but it's a circumstance, it's an experience. And as we are a living organism and we've been developing our shadow at a young age, this takes time to practice. The ego is going to always look inward or look outwards before it starts to look inwards. It's never the opposite. It's going to protect itself by not looking at itself. It's like looking into the mirror like, shit, yeah, quite ugly today. Well, the ego's going to do that all the time. So it's saying that's okay. Like this mind, these thoughts, these feelings, this body, it's not me. I think it's me, but it's not. I've been a god tricked into slavery. And looking at that mirror, it's going to be uncomfortable at first. But we start to shift something, because we realize it wasn't actually us. It's simply something that we have learned and something that we have played a role in and identify with. But if we identify with something, that implies that, well, we're not actually that thing itself. It's a very strong belief or a thought or a limitation that we hold ourselves up against. But if it's something that we have learned, then it's not true. It can't. Everything that we know, we have learned it. And if we can learn it, we can unlearn it. Yeah, so therefore, the most logical thing is to choose to be more empowering. So responsibility is definitely an absolute big one. Ownership of all. And when we do this, after a while, it's not going to be easy at first. There is going to be a lot of playfulness, curiosity, the wonderful unknowing of who am I? Who can I actually be? Oh shit, I've been living my entire life with an energy of people are going to leave me. Maybe a sense of abandonment. Maybe, I don't know, we got shouted at for doing something wrong and we're too afraid to make a mistake. And then there's perfectionism and procrastination, and we don't really want to make the move that might seems like the best move, because then there's a fear there that we're going to not be okay. Well, we're going to feel inadequate when people start to judge us, whatever way that looks like. It becomes a discovery because we start to detach ourselves from who we think we are. But it's not. It's absolutely not. It can't be. So ask the question, like, who am I without this fear? Who am I if what my narrative is about the circumstance or what could happen? Where does that come from? Who am I without any sort of limitation? What would I do if I knew I could succeed? This is the soul. These are the traits, the qualities of the soul. Fear lies in the ego. Fear lies within the reality that we currently live in. And that's okay. And again, it feels absolutely real, but that's the compassion. That's the honesty and the humbleness, and it's gonna feel shit. But again, it becomes that practice of like, oh yeah, it feels really uncomfortable. But it's showing me something about myself internally that I have not yet accepted, so that I can find more love and acceptance for who I am, and therefore step into a whole new evolutionary self that not only have I never experienced within, but I can feel more, I can be more present, I can attract more. That's empowerment. That's true empowerment. So the fear is in the illusion. On the other side of fear is freedom. Fear is a box we have placed ourselves into. And again, it's not our parents, it's not society, it's not school, it's not anything outside of us. We can say it is within one point of view, and it's what most people or everyone has probably said within their lives that you have heard. But this doesn't do anything. This is disempowering. So I like to look at it very logically. It doesn't serve us whatsoever. Like, when we can come down to a realization as a perspective, of course, that we've chose all of this. Even if it's not conscious, if we're unconscious, regardless, we've chose it. We've chose our parents, we've chose this country that we've been raised up in, we've chose all these experiences up until this very moment. I know you can believe that you cannot, but when I can say that to myself, that gives me empowerment, because there's full responsibility with that. So whether someone is interested in the idea of, well, we didn't choose everything, well, then what I tend to see in people who go down that sort of belief is there's still a judgment of my parents did this to me, or I am this way because of them. That serves absolutely no one. And we're not here to be a copy paste version of our parents in any way. We're here to discover ourselves based on where we've came from, which is the perspective of our parents gave us something. Okay, I was going to say they gave us life, but it's too cliche. Life gave us life. And as a result of that, within the physical reality, we came through our parents. So yeah, when we can take full responsibility, that is the most empowering thing we can do. And again, that's only a perspective, but that's what really works for me. And I guess that's the beauty of life. We can choose to believe or be whatever we want, and that's also very empowering, because there's a quote there of someone was having an interview, and the question that he got asked was, do you believe that there's free will, or do you believe that everything is predetermined? And he said, well, I don't know, but I'm going to pick free will because that aids towards my life. And that makes me feel more empowered. That makes me feel like I'm completely free in what I do, and I can choose to do anything. Whereas there's a restriction there if it's all predetermined. It's kind of like, ugh, what's the point? So again, it's all our imagination. We're a bunch of collective beliefs that have been compiled and our perspective of life itself, and we have internalized that, and that is where we act from. So when we can go down into that deep seat programming, the coding, and start to shift that, that's powerful. And then we can accumulate these beautiful perspectives on life as well that allow us to live more empowered. One of them could be that just the belief that when you wake up, today's going to be a great day. Today's going to be great. Or if something shit to you happens, you could stop calling it shit and say, wow, like life is really showing me something here about myself. What's the opportunity that I can take away from this? It's the exact same circumstance, and they're both on the same side of the coin. Duality, the shadow and the light, and good, bad, correct, incorrect, you name it. It's on the same side of the coin. We're just choosing which side would we rather have. And we get to a point then when we can stop we can start to leave that dualistic life and realize we're not the coin in the first place. And then it's just oneness with life, basically. So yeah, where in your life can you be more empowered? Where are you giving your power away? Like, ask these questions. Do a review, do an audit of your life. Whether you want to focus on circumstance, action, depends where we are. And if me talking about the identity beliefs isn't something that you understand, or something that you might be a bit more curious about, please contact me, and I'd love to jump on a call and we can go into more detail about that. And yeah, start to live from a state of pure freedom by freeing the mind first. So yeah, just to reiterate, it is uncomfortable. It can be sometimes scary to our ego to admit defeat, it might seem like. So our biggest breakthroughs occur when we can just ground ourselves, feel safe, feel open, be okay with saying where we have caused ourselves suffering. It's kind of like the abuser or the abusee of a narcissist, and they come to the realization of the narcissist wasn't actually the one doing any of the harm. It was themselves doing the harm because they've put themselves into that environment. And again, that's another view. For me, it's more empowering, and there's a lot of truth in that. We're only ever going to be shown in this life who we are. We can't attract anything out of mistake. It's all here for it's own reason. And yeah, like not everything is going to be a takeaway, but there's going to be hints, and there's going to be a big, massive identifications as to why we are feeling this way based on the circumstance that is being played out. So yeah, anything outside of us, we have made an internalization about ourselves or perspective that once served us, but now it no longer does. So it's the opportunity to grow, it's to learn, and it's to be more of us when we can see where in our lives are we living disempoweredly. And the most powerful breakthroughs, they lie in the subconscious. It is the blind spots that we live in, something that we're completely oblivious to. The I am not wanted, I'm not loved. We all have our own versions, and it is what really runs the show. So when we can look at circumstances and actions, yes, that's one part of it, but there's a lot of friction and tension there, because energetically, if it's coming from a space of overcompensations or behavioral adaptations and looking at techniques and methods on how to not be a people pleaser, well, it reinforces that there's a problem there in the first place, and we're managing it by finding a solution rather than getting down to the identity belief and realizing that the state of consciousness that we were operating from was based on an identity that we have created about ourselves, and then thought, action, feeling, it stems exactly from that root. So when we can dissolve the identity, the problem lies in the identity, and when there's no identity, there's no more problem, and then we can allow the flourishing of our true authentic selves, our soul, to express in whatever way that feels like, something that we don't actually know. I got asked a question of like, shit, like, so who am I? Like, my entire life energetically I'm feeling like I'm not wanted, and that's someone that no one can actually answer. That's the experience. We stepped into someone we've never been before. That's the elevation of consciousness of what we are currently operating from. Our awareness expands, and there can be some powerful breakthroughs where just everything starts to shift. It's magical, it's powerful, and what I invite you to do is to live a more empowered life. Don't be afraid. Any sort of fear that comes up, welcome it. Like, that's gonna be okay. It might take you days, weeks, maybe even months to see what that is, but just let it be there. It's always okay. You're exactly where you are today, because that is where you are to be. And there's no mistake in that. There's absolutely none. So if you watch this entire video, thank you so much. Any sort of support or appreciation on this post is appreciated in itself. Have a beautiful day, and don't forget to smile.